Hey, just a really quick video of a knife I received in the mail today. This is a Bob Dozier knife, K something or other. It's the foresting tramping one. So I got this through AJ Russell Knives, which is good because I emailed Dozier and they've got a 3-year waiting list. But they keep a fair number in stock all the time, which is really nice. And it's pretty cool. Stylized logo, I like that. And I got this sent to Mike Gavco for me so he could ship some other stuff with me. So I said put a special note in. And I just wrote special for Kylie. I had no idea what that meant. But what it means is that they put a card in here and write your note in there. So that was pretty cool. It was in a nice little, really nice envelope too. I got this because ironically, like Chris Reeves knives, I generally don't like hollow grind knives for use, but there's something extremely appealing about Bob Dozier's knives and Chris Reeves knives that I really like. And with the only Dozier knife I've ever owned was gifted to me a number of years ago as a trade with a friend, and this was made 15 plus years ago. And there's just a simplicity to the knives and the design that I really like. And you know, this is already a thin, skinny knife. It's got a fairly thin grind as things go. I mean, not super thin, but it's going to cut really, really well for the type of job it's done. And it's a nice, lean hollow. Probably a bit similar or a bit thinner to a Sebenza. It's a bit higher up the blade, obviously. But really like this knife. And like the sheath. I like the whole package. It's made me desire it a lot. Now this one is really old, and it does seem like it's finished just slightly nicer than this one. Nothing major though that I'd worry about. But it's up to you if you like it or not. But this one is Bob Dozier's handles. You hold it and it's just comfortable. It's impeccable. And really, really nice. No, the finish isn't perfect or immaculate everywhere or anything, but it's certainly not bad. You know, there's a difference in height on the sides and everything, so it's not perfectly equal. But I don't think he's trying to achieve perfection, especially at the price point he's selling these for, which might be high by some standards, but it's very, very low by other standards. So I think for the price he's selling them for and everything, I'm completely content with how this knife came out. I think I paid $230 US for this. You might get better deals, you might not. You know, some knife makers will be double, triple this for a similar thing with maybe slightly better cosmetics. But anything on here that you're dissatisfied with, I think you could put, you know, 10-20 minutes of hand labor and make it how you like. I'm extremely content with it. It just feels good in the hand, and that's something I like. The blade design, everything about this really appeals to me. The edge is quite interesting. This is, as said, I think quite a thick grind on here. It's, you know, he says for batoning, splitting wood and stuff, he's put a durable edge on here. So it's I've measured it at about 30 thou behind that edge. I'm going to calculate the edge angle and maybe comment it. I've taken some microscope videos to work out the edge angle, but it does feel durable. And the edge is hilarious to me when you look at it under the microscope. It's just, clearly this bevel was just, bam, zip it on with low grit and let it cut because it's ragged and raw. And you know, if I cut some, this is the envelope it came in, that note, you can hear and see it's slightly jagged, rippy. It's like a bandsaw. If I try and push, I simply can't cut. But if I've got any hair left, I've been testing, it will take the hairs off. And I comment slightly later in this video in the microscope why I think that is actually taking the hairs off. It's just the way the edge is ground, and stuff like this that it came in, it just rips through it really easily. So I'm laughing when I look at this under the microscope, and a lot of people might also, but at the same time, Joy, it's you would not want to run your finger against that edge. Trust me, you'd slit it open if it slid along it. It's not going to push cut, but it is like a little bandsaw. It's pretty cool. Knife falling around, and I'll use it like that until it doesn't cut, and then I'll see what I do with it. I might just leave it with a similar finish, but slightly refined and cleaned up. Always like Dozier sheaths. He has good moulding. It's not too wide. He's used the thinner rivets to reduce that. Not so keen on the melted in logo that doesn't go 100% clear. The one finishing point I noticed is, I don't know why, it might have just slipped by, or it might be how they come. Not a big fuss anyway, but this is all just really rough from being cleaned up on a belt and then not polished on a buffer, whereas this one's been buffed. Now again, honestly, I mean, a bit of sandpaper or Scotch-Brite, even by hand, you could fix that up in about 30 seconds. So you could say, oh, they could have done it, but at the same time, it's not going to be hard to do. It's not a big deal. There could be a good chance this one just slipped through. So, I'm happy to have this knife in my collection. And probably one of the few hollow grinds, this and Murray Carter's, that I enjoy using. Thanks for watching. Hey, so I just got my Bob Dozier in the mail, and I really like the knife, but I have to say the edge, it'll actually pop hairs off my arm, and but it cuts paper like a bandsaw. So I thought I'd have a look at the edge under the microscope, and I get a feeling this edge was just really quickly ripped across once on a grinder, and it's pretty coarse. This is 400X, of course, but yeah, there's definitely no attempt in the slightest to refine this edge in any way, and you can just see the tear out that's happened from this going down the grinder. And I don't know how this thing is able to cut arm hairs, but I think how it's doing it, when you slide the knife down, I think the hairs are getting caught in these little jagged bits, just like barber's shears that are zigzagging back and forth, and then they're actually just being poked out, because yeah, this is a pretty crazy edge when you think about it. But I mean, it cuts, there's no question of that. Cuts paper pretty roughly, but it goes through plastic shipping boxes pretty easy. This is right down the whole edge. Let's flip it up and have a look. I mean, I've just only moved about 1 inch down the edge that we just looked at. It's pretty big magnification. Let's get some brightness going there. It's pretty thick. I think that's about 30 thou behind the edge. So I'm going to take a snapshot and try and calculate the edge angle. This is, one of the heavy duty Doziers. So it's a much thicker edge than his slices and such, I believe. And so I expected that. But it looks like the edge is almost the height of my screen, so I'll just record the height and roughly say that that's the bevel height, and calculate an angle. But let's get on that apex and have a look at. I've been cutting paper and stuff. Look at the state of this thing. Start down the bottom where we were looking before. Yeah, so you can see that's just two really rough grinds. 60 grit almost, I think it looks like, probably. I mean, maybe that's just the way he does these knives, and you sharpen them from there. because I think honestly, I mean, it's so sawtoothy that for a lot of people, it cuts just fine, I'm guessing. But that actually looks almost folded over at that point. It's definitely probably what appears to me like one of the quickest grinds ever. So I just rammed it down. These are all paper fibers, I believe. They're just stuck to it. I wonder if I run it through a piece of wood quickly. I'll just try and knock some of that off the top. There we go. Now we've got wood fibers. That's how rough it is. That's just running it through a piece of Padook wood to try and clean off the other stuff. It's just made more stuff stick. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen an edge this rough before. I've heard about it. Just haven't seen it. So I'm going to concatenate this video and just show you a little bit of cutting with it. To show that, I mean, it cuts okay for how it is. It's quite interesting. Now if I go back up, that was 400x. You know, this is just your normal view of it. So to put it in perspective. And I've noticed my other Dozier, which is 20 years old, down at the heel is also like that. You know, it's not attempting to be highly accurate at that point. It's just a blending area. And that's just not a big deal to me. I'm used to knives that have that blended area like that and don't try and make a sharp point. Ford does it as well to a certain degree on a lot of his knives. It's a bit stronger in that area that way. And you just sharpen that how you want, I guess. But let's just have a quick look at. You can see as I'm running it that the bevel's definitely not an even thickness throughout. It's quite a bit thicker up here as we get to the front. And we're going around the belly now and up to the tip. It's pretty robust. But I mean, that does look quite intentional where they've thickened that right up there. Not sure about that bit. But honestly, I mean, it's one of those things you could pick on or not. I'm not too worried about it. The overall knife is honestly fantastic. I really like the knife. I like Bob Dozier designs. So let's have a look at it in big size.